Thanks, everybody. Thank you very much. It's so good to have you here again. You've been working diligently through all these modes. It's so awesome. Thank you. Thanks very much. Let's get down to work on this last of the primary modes from the major key. Locrian is the scale that's built from the 7th scale degree. How do we relate that to everything else? All right, first off, if you're in the key of, let's say, well, we'll keep using C major. It's a nice even round key, right? No sharps, no flats. If you go to the 7th note of that scale, to this B right here, that note, if you begin and end on B, but using all the same notes as the key of C, right? All natural notes, it'll sound like this, B. And then ending on a B. It's like, oh goodness, I'm tense, I'm weird, I feel strange, right? That's what Locrian does. How do you use Locrian? Typically you use it over the 7 chord. The 7 chord in a major key sequence is a diminished chord, right? We have root 3, 5, but the distance between those notes is they are all minor thirds. If we add a 7th onto it, the diatonic 7th on a B chord in this key is an A. So we'd spell the chord B, D, F, and then A. Ends up being a chord called minor major 7. Or half diminished is another way to put it. We'll get into that. Fret knots. Oh! Oh, the booing. You guys know better than the booming. I'm just going to give it right back to you. 10 times as different than that. Thanks. Thanks for all the booing. It's awesome. Let's take a look at that chord in first position. B, F, A, D. The notes seldomly appear in the order that they would in a blueprint. Like when you're writing the chord out, you probably would go B, D, F, A. The chord doesn't have to be spelled that way once it hits the fingerboard or once it hits the piano keyboard, right? Bless you. As long as those notes are in there in some capacity, you have achieved a B half diminished chord or B minor 7 flat 5. So some fingerings, you guys. Start on B. No, let me back up just for a second. The interval spelling of the scale is going to be half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole, whole. Oh, very good. Again, half from B to C, whole to D, whole to E, half to F, whole to G, whole to A, whole to B. Done. All right. So that's the interval series of this scale. Some people also like to equate the Locrian scale in this way. They say, oh, well, it's basically the same thing as a minor scale, but you flat the 2nd and the 5th. I guess, but I mean, this scale is very different than, right? There's different things happening in those scales. I mean, B minor at least has like a sense of finality to it, you know, but the Locrian scale, B Locrian, feels like it needs to go somewhere, at least to my ear. I hear it either going up to C, major 7 perhaps, or to an A minor. I don't know. I guess we can take it in a lot of different directions. It depends on what you want to hear or what you are hearing, right? Indeed. So let's take a look at that fingering in second position. There's going to be a shift. It's going to be 2 octaves. B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. Right, but I still have this finger available, right? So I can play another note on the string, perhaps. I'm gonna play a C. So, all right, D, E, F, G, A, B. A little bit of a jump there at the end. If you'd like, you can go like 1, 3, and then slide to the 7th fret, or you can play 1, 3, finger-wise 1 and 3, right? And then rotate your hand towards your pinky so the index finger is no longer pressing to alleviate some of that stretch. Hello, Basset Hound. How are you today? Typically, this 10-year-old Basset Hound right here, Daisy Mabel, she sleeps an awful lot, but because I'm playing all these tense sounds, she's in a place where she's not totally relaxed anymore. That's why she's looking at me, For food? What would you like? Food? We'll go outside. She wants to go outside. Okay, another version of the same scale. Let's take 5th position. All right, we'll go B, C, right, 3rd finger to 4th finger, and then go to the next string to continue on with the rest of the scale voicing. D, E, and F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. Right. So now slowly, but in continuous fashion. Good? Feels good. Starting to get somewhere with this. Let's start now with 1st finger on the same B on the 6th string. Right? Or just a little messing around there for everybody, everyone. Another version, another variation. Let's try this B right here. With the 3rd finger. Or use the fingerboard like a palette. You have all these different resources. Become familiar with where the notes are. In the beginning, for the sake of building speed and dexterity, it makes sense to look at scales like patterns, so you can get your fingers to really blaze through things, you know? Yeah, like that. But once you're past that point and you know where all the notes are in all the keys that you're working with, you can kind of forget the patterns and start to think about notes. Where do the notes of the scale lead you in your melody? How do the notes of the scale interact with the chords that you're playing? You don't have to necessarily, this is a big thing, you don't have to use Locrian over the 7 chord. You don't have to use Phrygian over the 3 chord. I mean, you can, but there's other uses for these things. If you start to stretch your mind just a little bit and start thinking about how the first note of the scale interacts with the chord that you're playing. As an example, right, this is big. If you're playing a C chord, the notes are C, E, and G, right? Okay, now I have three different notes that could potentially begin a scale on, I think. And you may agree. You might disagree. You might talk to your teacher about this and be like, that's an idea, but it's not musically substantive on a foundation level. Like, you wouldn't think about this first thought, you know. It's definitely something that you would I think adopt as you get more advanced with your scale work. Anyway, if I play a C chord, C, E, and G, E is the 3rd of the chord, G is the 5th. Okay, what's the 3rd scale in the key of C? Phrygian. Go back through and look if you don't believe me. Not that you don't believe me, but go back through if you need to. So Phrygian's the 3rd scale. E is the 3rd note. Who's to say that if I play a C chord, I can't play E Phrygian? It seems like it works to me, right? So we're basically calling the scale, by a couple different names. Like, we're thinking, okay, C major chord should get the C major scale. But if I use another scale that harmonizes with one of the notes in the chord, it seems like that's also fair game. But it all points back to the same thing. We're playing over a major chord, right? Call it what you will. Take the same example over the G, which is the 5th of the chord. Now, Bit more of a stretch on that one. This concludes our learning of the principal ideas behind playing modes. Enjoy Locrian.